right, everybody, welcome to another exciting edition of The Stiff Truth. I'm Scott Castelnova, and I do have with me, as usual, but he seems to be a little bit more like a recovering chemotherapy patient right now, Mr. Bob West. How we doing, buddy?
I sound like shit, but the good news is I look like shit. so we got that going for us. I don't necessarily feel like shit, even though I do sound like the gay dude off of the birdcage.
Which is great, though. I mean, at least you sound and look like shit. They're matching up there. So
I don't want to confuse anyone. I need to make sure that our Spotify listeners are on par with our YouTube viewers.
Yeah.
So that what they see is what they get, and what they hear is what they get.
And just so
staying genuine here.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you guys know that aren't watching YouTube, Bob, he looks, well, I'm just a little bit worried. But anyways, moving right along, really excited. I think this is episode number 13, Bob, number 13. And really excited that we're going to be continuing our conversation today about the evolution of heavy metal, because we're going to be stepping out of the bell bottoms and into spandex pants today. So really excited about that, Bob.
And that's the best way to step. This is, part 2 of our, 6-7 part series on the history and evolution of metal. This is a really good one that's near and dear to me and my heart and my childhood. I'm also excited about this. I'm glad that we're at this point, and I'm really looking forward to the next several episodes.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny that you said that too. Like, we started out like, hey, this is going to be a multi-part episode, maybe 3, 4. As we start learning and revisiting a lot of this stuff, right? You realize like, oh shit, we forgot about this part of it and this part of it. Oh my God. So who knows? This could be boring after it's all said and done.
It'll never be boring. Not in the Stiff Truth, man.
No way, man.
I do want to mention that it is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to my mother and my wife and my sister and all you mothers out there, but specifically the ones that are near and dear to me. Just want to get that out there, even though they probably don't listen to the show. But happy Mother's Day, you guys.
Well, Bob, I'm just going to go ahead and thank you for getting ahead of me on that one, because now if I say it, I look like a total fucking fake, right? Like a copycat. So I'm glad you got that out first, because yours is genuine. Now, if I try to revisit that and say that I appreciate my wife and my mother for Mother's Day, it sounds like recycled garbage. So I appreciate that. That was very nice.
Anything I can do to help.
Now, all kidding aside, yes, happy Mother's Day to all the lovely mothers out there, including the ones that are near and dear to me and Bob. But hey, let's just talk about it. We've already addressed it a little bit here, bud. What's going on? I mean, we've got the bronchitis, right? We don't have the COVID. How you feeling, buddy?
I'm feeling okay. Last Monday I got my results back that I didn't have COVID. That was a huge relief for me. So never having had bronchitis before, feeling my lung capacity wither away and my lungs just fill up with fluid was pretty fucking scary, to be honest with you. But once I got my results back and saw a physician online in telemed, then we narrowed it down to bronchitis, and I got on my regimen of medicines and antibiotics and what have you. Got my little steroid. I've always wanted to be that nerd with the asthma attack, so get my wish. I've been better every day. I still have coughing fits, but they're getting better. So
wait, you wanted to be the fat wheezy kid? Is that kind of what I just heard?
Yeah,
there?
I always wanted to know what that was like on the other side of the locker.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because you were athletic football player and everything like that. So you weren't the last kid that was picked for dodgeball, right? You were usually one of the first ones.
No, I was usually ditching that class. Anyway, don't let the kids know that, because it's all about the kids.
All about the kids. Absolutely, Bob. Well, no, it's good to hear that you're feeling a little bit better. And, I have to imagine, too, just knowing you and knowing your regimen outside of having to take antibiotics and other medications for bronchitis, You weren't able to drink for about 4 or 5 days either. Tell me a little bit more about that. Was that rough?
It was rough.
You didn't have like a moment of clarity or something crazy? Like, oh, this feels so great to be clear-headed
Yeah,
and
I had a
sober?
moment of clarity where I was like, oh, wow, I really need a drink. In fact, on my last day of antibiotics, that night I actually had 2 Guinness for the first time in a week. But I didn't want to. I looked it up online and said you should not drink anything while you're on an antibiotic regimen, that it really negates the antibiotics while you drink. And I was like, well, I need to breathe, so let's not do that. So finally, I'm now off the antibiotics, and I had a couple of drinks last night. For the first time. Real drinks. I don't count beer, but.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, so I'm back. Back on off the wagon? Yeah, I'm back off the wagon.
I always get that one fucked up, man. I mean, you could break it down like either way, right? Like, okay, I'm off the wagon, like I fell off the sober wagon, right? Or, I'm off the wagon, like the wagon is where everybody's getting drunk, like on the wagon.
I think for Stiff Truth employees. We're supposed to be off the wagon. That's
right. We're supposed to be.
We would never discriminate on hiring someone that doesn't drink, but we wouldn't hire them.
Sorry.
Sorry. That's not funny. And I'm just kidding.
For all those out in podcast land, he just mouthed that he wasn't kidding.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Remember, it's always allegedly until you have some solid proof, and even then, it's still allegedly.
Even though this is recorded on camera, I'm going to say that that's hearsay, buddy.
Hey, it's obviously out of context. Obviously out of context.
It's fake news. I don't appreciate it.
No, you're fake news.
I am, unfortunately.
That's all right, buddy. Well, hey, glad that you are on the trend to feeling better. I'm very happy for you too that you're able to have a beverage again. A nice alcoholic beverage is a staple. And I kind of back up a little bit there. Was that like, I don't know, it's been a while since I've had a break of about 5 straight days with absolutely 0 drinks, even if it's like a beer or 2 in between. Did you feel that first drink? Was it kind of like, it's so good when it hits your lip, like Will Ferrell with kind of Frank the Tank kind of thing going on, or what?
So I was out doing some yard work on Friday evening, and we've had a pretty hot couple of days until like last night.
So you were raking the dirt?
Yeah, it's New Mexico. I was doing yard work. I was really hot, and I went in and cracked a Guinness and, poured it into a nice pint glass, and it was incredible. It was nice and cold and creamy. It's definitely some, like, male adult version of chocolate milk going down.
I heard like, creamy and then male adult. I didn't know where you were going there.
I just lost you completely. I saw your mind just wandering away into gay land.
I'm still trying to pray it away. I'm still trying every day to pray it away.
Good luck on that. So yeah, no, that first Guinness, I definitely felt it was awesome. Last night I actually had a whiskey rocks for the first time in a minute, so that was nice too.
Gotta love that, man. Well, again, welcome back.
It's nice to be off the wagon again.
Yes. I know that was probably the toughest part so far of having bronchitis and scared.
It's not having the coughing fits until you almost pass out.
No. It's
after
not
that drinking for a week.
It's after the coughing fit when you almost pass out and realize, man, I can't have a drink right now to calm down about that fit I just had. That's the tough part right there.
Oh, that's when you.
Hey, now, it's weird that you opted for the actual legitimate medication, steroids, and that's not a Lysol inhaler or anything like that?
No, it is. I'm trying to get rid of the COVID.
That's what I heard. I heard it works, and that was not taken out of context in any way, shape, or form.
Inside this little guy is actual sunlight.
Oh.
So I just breathe it in, and it really cleans the lungs.
It's good for COVID and warding off vampires, apparently.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. Bob, kind of switching gears a little bit here. I think it's really awesome, right? That like you've seen like all the governors and the mayors doing their little daily COVID kind of briefings and everything like that. Some of them are wearing their masks. They got people standing behind them, and they've always got an interpreter, which is great, right? So people can actually understand what's going on and whether they're hearing impaired. But I've noticed that there seems to be, and I don't know if if you've seen this at all too. There seems to be a little bit of a trend with who kind of nabs these interpreter jobs for at least for the government. Have you seen what I'm talking about here?
Well, Scott, I'm just going to like quit pussyfooting around this. I'm just wondering why all the interpreters are like seemingly like middle-aged lesbians. I don't understand. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just curious as to what attracts a lesbian to be an interpreter, or is it the other way around? Do you start interpreting and then realize that, oh shit, I've liked girls this whole time? Well, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I think the honest thing is it's after they realize that their softball career is over, they go right to
it. I'm a little bit confused by it. It's just like every time I turn on and there's an interpreter there. First off, it is like a predominantly women-dominated field.
Oh,
Maybe that's what raises the numbers, because when you have more of one gender, you're going to obviously have more
variety.
LGBT members of that community.
Sure.
But I'm just like, I just never quite understood. And then like here in New Mexico, like everyone that gets on, the mayor of Albuquerque, the governor, it doesn't matter. Like we have like the same couple of interpreters. So they'll like get done in Santa Fe for the governor, and then they'll like drive their Subaru down to Albuquerque and interpret for the mayor.
Wait, I thought they were in a PT Cruiser. No?
Oh, sorry. I've got too much congestion going on to laugh like this. So if you could take it easy on me.
Hey, you're the one who said it, my friend. Well, and I love what you did there. I was literally right there, not really understanding how you were going to. I really wasn't sure how you were going to take that topic, how far out you were going to go, or how PC you were going to take it. So here I am asking a question like a CNN reporter, and you answered me like Trump when he's pissed off. I
answered you like Scott normally takes over for me. We had a role reversal there. Normally it's me trying to be a little bit more PC about it, but this time I just cut right to the chase.
You did.
I gave it some Scotty treatment.
I liked it. It was very good. It was, but you're right, man. And I've noticed this before, but I didn't say anything. It's one of those things where you don't want to be that guy, right? You don't want to be that guy that's like, why does everybody look like a hardcore bull dyke right now? Like that's an interpreter, but they are.
Well, the other day, Jessica was just like, I love this guy, and I'm like, Jess, that's a woman. He's so animated, and I was like, babe,
yeah,
that person has wide hips and like boobs. I mean,
yeah, wide hip boobs, not super.
You can't really see it through the shirt and tie that they were wearing.
Yeah.
They did kind of look like they were wearing a weatherman outfit, but you got to like look beyond that. You know, like
they're not even going with the pantsuits. These people right now, I tell you what. No, it's funny too. It seems like the prerequisite is a failed college softball career. Something of that nature.
Listen, Scott, I'm not trying to like make here or there of this. All I'm trying to do is be an astute observant of what's going on with the interpreting community. And I saw something. I got to give it the stiff truth and call it out like I see it. And that's how I've been seeing it. So maybe I'm an asshole.
Yeah. Well, there's no question that's a stiff truth right there. You're totally an asshole. I mean, and that's fine.
True story.
I love this. This is great. So now that you guys know, if you're out there and you're lesbian, you're getting a little older, you've got a mullet rocking, maybe you should take up, putting in that little application for the government interpreter. Seems to be the go-to thing right now. God bless them.
They're always hiring.
Always. So
they're always looking for good quality folks.
Yeah. Well. I've been watching the news a lot, and I noticed that too. It's definitely interesting. I'm going to see if this theme keeps going along because these interpreters aren't going anywhere. So years down the road, we'll know if this is like a solid career track for the aging lesbians, right? So,
and it is good because they're like good wholesome American jobs too, right? It's like something that no one has outsourced. You don't ever see the Asian or Indian interpreter that has come to like take a job of somebody there to interpret. It is always like these, I don't know, lesbian white women. I don't know.
Portly, a little bit older lesbian white women.
I would love to see that. Just like a foreign person trying to interpret and like sitting there trying to like make sure that they understood that last part right because of the, lost in translation bit that might happen there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just mean spirited. I don't know. I just thought it'd be funny.
It is funny, Bob, and you are mean spirited. You're an asshole and you're mean spirited. Don't ever question these things about yourself, Bob. You're a great guy. Okay. Good.
Great at being an asshole.
Hey, everybody's got to be something, and I'm glad you're good at it. You take pride in your assholeism. Assholeism? Sure.
You know what else is a bunch of assholes?
What's that?
Goddamn murder hornets. Have you seen that shit?
Well, just another sign of the apocalypse, if you ask me, my friend. I mean, we've got a pandemic going on. We've got New World Order going on. We've got people talking about a world currency and all that good stuff. And now we literally have the trumpet sounding. And instead of locusts, it's these big, giant fucking bees with these amazing stingers that apparently just kill all the honeybees. Yeah, I'm not a big fan, Bob. I'm not a big fan.
So I haven't looked it up myself, but Jess looked it up. And she told me that the murder hornets get their name because I guess they like hold a bee down and rip off its mandibles and take it to their babies and feed it to them.
Yeah, they're pretty fucking gnarly. I saw that too. I'm not sure, and I guess I'd have to do more research on this. I'm not sure they were always called murder hornets. I don't know if that's a new thing or not, or if that's always
I don't think murder is a Japanese word. I'm sure they had some sort of Japanese name from Japan.
Well, that's all I heard, where they were just called Japanese hornets or something like that for a long time, but I don't know, but apparently they're here. They were where were they spotted? In Washington State. Washington State seems to be a fucking epicenter and genesis for a lot of shitty stuff recently, doesn't it?
It really is. I mean, I know that Seattle's like one of the biggest ports that we use for Asian ships coming in, but did Asian ships bring in some murder hornets? How did that work? Did someone like specifically come over with like this jar with like holes in it, like a 7-year-old, and just opened it up and go free? Yeah. I don't get how
I don't know how they got here either. I mean,
I don't think they crossed the ocean. I mean,
they'd have to stop and refuel a few times, I would imagine, right? So
I would think. They're not that big.
Stop, kill like an entire beehive and cut off all its heads. Like, okay, cool. Now I got my juice back.
Got my second wind. Now I'm good.
Jesus Christ. Well. And that's the other thing that's just strange to me in general is where the fuck did these things come from now? Why are they here now, like you said? Who brought them over here? How'd they even get here? And they've been in Japan and China killing a max of about 50 people a year for a long, long time. I don't think they're a relatively new species at all. So it's interesting how that happened. Do you think there's foul play behind this?
Nah, I think that just the world is more connected now than it's ever been. Back in the day, Hawaii didn't have like spiders and snakes, right?
Really?
But they got put there because they ended up, on cargo ships and shit like that and crates and just kind of populated that way. But yeah, there's once upon a time when Hawaii was like really awesome and didn't have any spiders and snakes and shit like that. Well, not even shit like that, just spiders and snakes. But
can you imagine a tropical island without spiders and snakes?
It'd be pretty awesome. Just walk around barefoot and shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So all they would have there is big Samoan guys and oceans and
apparently pigs. Cause
pigs? They got pigs there too?
I don't know. They roast the pigs with the apple right on the fire with the little crank.
I wonder if are pigs native? Native there? That's interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Not right now.
No. let's cut the show. I'm gonna go look up.
Stop. I'm gonna search for the geographic locations of pigs' origins.
It's a video here. Welcome to Hawaii.
So one thing about the murder hornet is they're a little bit more gnarly than what we got now, but I mean, I'm sure they have them up there in Colorado, but they have the tarantula hornets down here. They're very similar in size. Apparently the murder hornets pack a little bit stronger punch, but you don't want to get stung by a tarantula hornet either.
No.
So, and they're like 2 inches long, and they're fucking crazy. That's like one hornet that I literally like run away from.
Yeah, no, 100%. In fact, I don't know a hornet that's pleasant. Like just hornets in general are like the dickheads of the bee world. Like the big. Okay, let's put it this way. They're the, if we're looking at maybe a Rocky analogy or something like that, these murder hornets and these all hornets are kind of like Dolph Lundgren's character in Rocky 4.
I don't know how you managed to get so many episodes back to Dolph Lundgren. But look at you go. Kudos to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Like
But
6 degrees of separation. Everything eventually is back to Dolph.
which is really weird. He hasn't been in a lot of stuff.
Isn't like
don't worry.
Expendables 3 the last movie I think he did?
Yeah, Expendables like 2 or 3, but as long as there's Sylvester Stallone, I can always pull it back to Dolph Lundgren. But no, the really sad part, as you already know about the murder hornets, is it's not really I honestly don't think it's really a threat to humans too much, right? I know that their thing is they can they sting you in swarms, very similar to killer bees. You remember killer bees, right? That was a big craze in the 80s and 90s, man, because they were going rampant here for a while. Same kind of thing with the murder hornets. They like to sting you in groups, and then they keep stinging you, and it gets to the level of an extremely venomous snake, like the toxins that they're releasing. So yeah, you can die from them, but the big danger obviously is the honeybees, right? Everybody's freaking out about bees being this apparently the most important part of the ecosystem. I never knew this before a few years ago, but yeah, they're pretty fucking important, and they could literally kill all the honeybees if they got their foothold here in America. So let's hope they don't do that.
Yeah, we should just produce honeybees.
Don't
in
we?
General.
Don't beekeepers do that? Isn't that like?
Yeah, but they do it for honey. Like we should just produce honeybees.
Yeah,
we should. Just because, like the government, that's an expenditure worth spending. Like we're just going to subsidize your production of honeybees. Am I going to make a profit or anything? Nope. This is just going to be a taxpayer expense to keep our fucking ecosystems going.
Interesting. Do you want to start?
Socialism at its finest, right?
You want to start? Do you want to start breeding bees? Then is that what you want to do?
No, I fucking hate bees.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
No, I'm not down. I'm not down with bees.
That made a turn for the worse. Real
yeah,
quick.
I don't run away from bees.
He's like,
but no, I hate bees. When I was like 7 years old, I was on an old rusty swing in East Texas, and like there was a wasp.
Old rusty
nest.
swing. That sounds like a drink.
I know.
Give
right?
me an old rusty swing.
So there's a wasp nest on the inside of like the pole that holds all the swings up on the top, and they're hollow, because they're steel. But there's a wasp nest in, so I'm like swinging on this fucking swing, and then these like just swarm of wasps just come and like sting me, and I'm like bare shirted. I don't know where to shirt at that time, bare chested, I guess. And then I got like 3 or 4 of them just sting me right in the middle of my chest as I'm trying to like leave the swing. I didn't even know that it was coming, but they all came in like a group like that. So I don't think it's necessarily specific to a certain type of wasp or hornet.
You just don't like something that flies around and that could sting your ass.
I think that a lot of those types of species all kind of attack in groups when their home is threatened because they use like chemicals to signal, each other so that they can all be on the same page. So yeah, ever since that little incident, I've just like, I'm done with that. I'm done with that shit.
So now what Bob does when there's a bees, he throws his child in the way. It's like, ah!
I start taking off my shoes. My son's like, you're not going to outrun that bee. And I'm like, I don't have to, son. I just got to outrun you.
And all that I can still handle even with my wheezing.
That's right.
Good for you. Remember, it is all about the kids, so I'm glad that you do that.
Yeah, it's okay. I might have to push him down, but I'll win.
Give him a flat tire right before you start. You go,
Just hold him up like a human shield when the bees are coming. Super manly.
Super manly. I love that, my friend.
No, actually, I just run away like, oh, shit. Oh, what's her name from Scary Movie? Little blonde girl. She's on Mom.
Yeah, Anna Faris.
Anna Faris. Yeah, I run away like Anna Faris, like flailing and everything.
And then you start, and when she's doing the parody of I Know What You Did Last Summer, and he's like, what do you want from me? You start screaming that at the bees too. What do you want from me?
Yeah, I start spinning around in a circle with my arms out. I get down.
Bob, you're literally attracting more bees to you, and you're wearing a red shirt. What the fuck's going on?
I just want to give them a good target so that I can pull my son in front of me at the last minute.
Yeah, hold steady.
It's like bullfighting.
Come here, boy. Come here, boy.
It's like bullfighting. Instead of removing the red sash, I just pull my son in front of me.
It's interesting. I don't really have a big problem with bees. At least I act like I don't, right? I remember we were at the zoo last year. Remember when you could go out to the zoo? Oh, those are fun times. Motherfucking COVID.
What's a zoo?
Well,
Is that where the animals come by your house and see you inside, and they all just kind of hang out your window and look at you?
what are they doing in there all the time?
Look at these humans on display. Come circle around, kids.
Exactly. But back to what I was saying, I was at the zoo. We're sitting there, and we're literally at this little bee sanctuary area of the zoo. And they're fucking honeybees. They're fucking totally harmless. I mean, there's no like big hive anywhere or anything like that. They're just literally grazing on some flowers out there, right? But there's these picnic tables, and we got just whatever, some burger and fries type deal, taking a little break, and my daughter starts freaking out because there's a bee buzzing around, and I'm like, don't worry about it, he's fine. But as you sit there, and then there's like a bee in every line of sight, and you start getting like a little anxious, and you feel like bee claustrophobic. That's when I start freaking out, and I have to get up and walk away and start like getting everything off me. So I don't like them around me when they're starting to swarm, it seems like, even if they're just being nice little bees out there just, doing their thing. What do they do anyways? They just pollinate shit, right? That's their thing?
Yeah, that's their thing.
They drop some shit here, they drop it over there, they put it in there, and shit grows, right?
That's exactly it. Very scientific. Thank you for breaking that down for the layperson.
Well, I do a lot of research for the show, Bob.
And it shows. Keep up the good work.
Honestly, I don't give a fuck if people don't know, or if people know that I don't know too much about bees. It's fine. It's fine. I know there's certain types of bees, and I'm almost done talking about bees because I'm getting bored with myself, and that's bad news right there.
Well, that's good because you lost me like 90 seconds ago.
All right, moving right along, Bob. But seriously, I do want to talk about something that has been in the news a little bit lately that's not COVID relating. And that's refreshing to me, man. I don't know about you, but every time I watch the news and it's something that is not involved with the economic downturn and how we're going to get back to work and reopening the country and blah, 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 and the fourth stimulus package. And oh my God, I love hearing some stuff that is completely non-COVID related and is back to some good old wholesome controversies and scandals, right? That's what we love in the news, right? So I don't know if you've seen much, but apparently Tara Reade, yes, that's right, the movie star Tara Reade, is suing Joe Biden. Is that correct, or did I get that wrong?
Is this the one with like the lopsided tits?
Yes. That's the
okay,
one.
Gotcha. Wasn't she like on an episode of Botched or something?
Yes, I think she had some nasty plastic surgery done a while ago, but no. Tara Reade, if anybody doesn't know, I think what was her probably most famous movie? She was in Van Wilder. She was in
Sharknado, dude. Come on,
Sharknado all the way. I'm trying to give her a little bit of like actual credit.
Wasn't she in like American Pie?
She was in American Pie. Yeah, she was in the American Pie. Was that a trilogy?
The first one, right?
She was in the first one. Yeah, she was one of the dudes like high school, girlfriends or something like that. But other than that, besides like just partying out and like just being a total has-been, I don't know if she's really done much more besides Sharknado, right? Like you said.
She doesn't need to. Sharknado is an epic work of art, and cinema thanks her for being there. So sorry, not cinema. It was made for digital. So
it's the Sci-Fi
Channel. Thanks her for being there.
It's a Sci-Fi Channel original, I believe, or something like that. But no, Tara Reade is not a has-been, still pretty decent-looking, lopsided titty actress. We're talking about someone in their late 50s, a little portly, kind of ugly in the face. The kind of people that like Bill Clinton and Joe Biden go after, right?
I don't really know.
You don't know? I thought you hung out with them.
No.
Oh no, that's you and Pence. Never mind. Never mind.
I could tell you what kind of man Pence is into. I mean, what kind of person Pence is into. All day. Interesting thing about this story is, and I've been hearing a bunch about it, and nothing says that we have an election coming up like a good old-fashioned sexual assault allegation. It happens every time. I believe Trump had like 6 in 2016 coming up in November or something like that had hit the news. So this one's Biden's. Didn't really look into it, nor did you. When we were actually looking into it and researching for the show, is when we actually found out what she's.
Why are you going to throw me under the bus? Why do you have to throw me under the bus like that? I don't appreciate
that. So that I'm
that.
not alone. But apparently the allegation is that in 1993 he put his hand on her shoulder and then like rubbed her neck, or like a finger grazed her neck, or something like that, or I don't know if he inappropriately rubbed a neck. I didn't know if there was an inappropriate level of rubbing neck.
I thought it was all kind of inappropriate rubbing neck.
In 1993,
times were different then, huh?
I don't know, man. It just seems like I believe we spoke in private offline about this, and that how this seems like it's kind of nonsensical and probably just goes away, but it's a way to grab some headlines now, right?
Yeah, and what we were talking about before totally makes sense. I don't really see how, touching her shoulder, maybe having some part of his hand touch the back of the hairs on her neck can be defined as, is it sexual
assault?
Yeah, sexual
assault.
So to me, sexual assault seems like, honestly, when I think of sexual assault, I think of somebody getting their ass beat with like a giant dildo or something like that.
Yeah, like some Deliverance shit, right?
Yes.
Like grab the fence, squeal like a pig.
Yeah. But no, that's not really what it is. And I don't understand what the controversy is over. I think you did mention earlier, though, I think the only thing that could maybe be a little bit strange is that he did put his arm on her shoulder in that finger incident right after he got done nailing her, I think, over the desk, though.
Yeah, that should be mentioned that after consensual sex, he grazed my neck. And that was taking it too far.
That's too much, sir. That's too much. Look, you can stick your dick in my butt and use country crock as the lube, but do not touch my fucking neck. You like that?
So I don't know if they had sex or not. I just know that this is a little bit ridiculous. Not to say that. Here's my thing. If you want to say that me touching your shoulder and rubbing my finger on your neck is sexual assault, fine. You can say that if you said, please stop touching me like that, and I continue to do it. Sure. Right? If it was just like a casual thing, like, oh, I think we're going to win in this primary. Oh, isn't that great? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one knows these circumstances. And they're trying to find it was 30 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they were probably smoking on the airplane when it happened, or fucking who knows? It was so long ago. But
people are just finding out that cigarettes cause cancer. I'm not sure what's going on there.
It's just a very strange thing. I thought there was going to be oh wow, he forced himself on her, or someone walked in and he stopped her. There's going to be some outrageous claim. But then when I actually looked at the claim, I kept waiting for the rest of it, and the rest of it never came. I mean, maybe there's more of it that I didn't see, but from what I could tell, the allegation was a finger on the neck. So, I don't know. Very strange to me.
Well, I'll just say this, man. I was looking it up. I was like, okay. And I talked about this when we were offline earlier, too. I was like, what's with, the politicians, having allegedly doing stuff with very unattractive women, right? Or very, very just run-of-the-mill kind of women. I mean, you look at Monica Lewinsky, right? What was the other one from Bill Clinton? God, I can't remember the other. You know what I'm talking about, right? She's blonde hair, but really, really just not very pretty.
I can't remember her name.
Yeah. No, shit.
Paula Jones.
Paula Jones, something like that.
It's Paula Jones.
Okay. I just looked up, of course, you've seen Tara Reade, not Sharknado famed Tara Reade, but you're looking at this one. She's overweight, she's old, blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at a picture of her from back in the day. She's a smoke show.
Yeah, I saw that too.
She's a good-looking chick, dude. So I can kind of see why Dirty Joe is getting in there, rubbing her neck, right? Hey, good job, Joe. Now, obviously, if you ask me, she took it pretty hard. Okay, and this is where all the weight came from. a lot of the wrinkles. She's been in therapy for years, man.
I just couldn't imagine going home and telling my wife, "Honey, you need to sit down. I've got something to tell you."
I'm gay.
My boss put her hand on my shoulder.
Oh God, I felt so
uncomfortable. And a finger grazed my neck. I'm going to need therapy.
Honey, did you tell him anything? Did you say anything to him? No, I was too scared.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah,
there's something more to this story. There's got to be.
Oh, I know what it is. There's probably somebody that's got some vested interest in Joe Biden not winning the presidency, decided to go ahead and pay her to kick this shit up.
That's an outlandish allegation, and I don't appreciate your inference. Everybody is for Joe Biden winning. If you didn't know,
Well, I
if
said
you just roll through
allegedly,
the
didn't
South,
I?
there's Joe Biden flags and shit everywhere.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Does he know they're there?
Well, he forgot.
Yeah, good old Joe. Hey, you know what though? If he does become president, and I'm not going to get into whether or not I dislike or like him or whatever. I think we both got a couple of real winners again, like you said. I think a couple episodes.
It's always
before.
good to vote for the least worst. That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
you know. So, but the one silver lining of him being president is he will not have this constant weight on his shoulders and all this, you know, because people are going to attack the president, whether it be Trump or whether it be somebody else. People are always going to attack the president.
Of course,
And
it's
Trump,
America.
let's give it to Trump. He's dealt with a lot of shit, maybe more than a decent amount of other presidents. He's dealt with a lot of shit coming at him, and he's had to wake up every day with that weight on his shoulder. The nice thing about Joe is he'll wake up every morning clean slate. You know what I mean? No recollection of what just happened the day before.
He does have that going for him.
He does, which is really gonna heighten his spirits, I think, day to day, right?
Hey, that short memory makes for a good quarterback. I bet it makes for a great president too.
No.
Did you see what that article said about you yesterday? What article? Attaboy.
Move along.
Like
move
it never
along.
happened, right? What happened?
Yeah. All right, where are my advisors? Who are my advisors? Here we go. Okay, let's get it done. Oh my God, you know that actually reminds me. I think you probably saw this too, but I think it's so funny that we talked about Jay Cutler and what's her name, Kristen Cavallari, something like that. I love what he did, right? After like the divorce thing is going on right now, she's trying to take millions from him. So he goes ahead, he freezes all the bank accounts and quote tells her, "Get a job." And I said to him, "Jay, you might need to do that too."
Jay, you don't have a job either.
A lot of people are like, "Ooh, Jay for the win." I'm like, "Jay's unemployed."
All right. Yeah, I know. I mean, I once heard this, proverb about, throwing stones. that you shouldn't throw stones if you're guilty too. So, yeah, I did see that. That was funny. It made me chuckle.
It made me chuckle very much too.
COL, chuckle out loud.
Huh. Is that a new one?
Yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
Wow. Hey, all those kids on the gram and TikTok and everything. Bob is making up new acronyms, I guess.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's what an acronym is.
I'm chuckling out loud. COL.
Chuckling out loud. COL.
Could we get one COX? Could we get something where it's Cox?
I don't know. Maybe we can reveal that in the next couple of shows.
Okay. I'll think about that one. I'll think about it. Well, I don't know about you, my friend, but it's getting that time where I'm getting really thirsty. Bob, I'm sure you're itching to have a cocktail. I mean, you're still playing catch up from your 5 days off, right? So, what do you think, bud? Time for
I got some more yard work to do today for my beloved wife.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm definitely thirsty
well,
for a drink.
Good. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you clarified that because the Stiffies were a little concerned there what you were thirsty for. I know we were talking earlier about, what was it, a cockle of, no, what was it? I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'll leave that one alone. Let's go get a stiff drink. What do you think?
Let's do it. Good for you.
So, stiff drink, buddy.
Oh,
What do we got today? What do we got today?
This is a Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
So, I made mine extra stiff. I didn't want to bring two, so I just poured two in one glass. Yeah, see? See what I'm doing there? So I think there's like 3 or 4 shots of vodka in here, but it's going to be okay.
I don't think it. Yeah, that's good. And I don't think it's any accident that we started the show when we started way back having one cocktail. And now for the last few, it's been mandatory to not have one, but 2, or like you did, really make a stiff drink. We can't be fucking around anymore, Bob.
No, and just wait to the evolution of the show to where we have 3 drinks and get sloppy by the end. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, the evolution of the show is we started with 1 drink, 2 drinks, 3 drinks. All of a sudden, Bob crashed his car, DUI.
Right. Episode 46. It's just Bob today.
Scott's in jail.
Scott's in rehab for fucking alcohol.
Scott's making his second tour of rehab. For this time, a different substance. Yes.
Oh, funny.
Oh, God.
Yes, substance abuse is really funny.
Those weren't the days. Anyways, moving right along. Bob, I'm very, very excited to get into it, man. We're getting into it here. In case you guys missed the last episode, and I have to trust that no stiffies have missed any episodes at all, right? But if you guys are not caught up yet, we did a little bit of the genesis of metal. We talked mainly about Black Sabbath, other players. Now we are let's just say we're kind of stepping out of the 70s. Maybe we still got one toe in the late 70s. Maybe. But we're now just kind of popping right into the late 70s, early 80s. I think 83 is a very big year for what we're going to talk about here. And to let everybody know, we decided to go the track of, okay, we get to the 80s. There's really 2 heavy branches of metal music, right? We go the Sunset Strip kind of way, right? And that whole, let's just call it the glam rock, cock rock bands, whatever you want to call it, right? The big hair, big shows, all about excess, right? That kind of stuff. And then you have a completely different track that goes more into thrash metal, speed metal, death metal, more hardcore punk, punk rock and everything like that. And that two separate tracks, right? So today we're going to focus on Bob's favorite, and that's the guys that are stuffing tube socks in their pants, right, Bobby?
Oh, absolutely. Glam rock, hair metal, cock rock, rooster rock, whatever you want to call it.
Let's party.
Yeah. Good times. Metal that was specifically made to get laid and get chicks in your venue.
Absolutely.
And had nothing to do with, music. It was just all about a party, which, I can respect. I can respect that.
Hey, we used to have Topless Tuesdays at our apartment, remember?
That is true. I do remember that. I'd forgotten about that.
We were kind of like our own little glam rockers for a little bit, weren't we?
We did kind of have some groupies.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did for a while.
Days, yeah.
Huh. It's funny. It's disgusting. It's very bad of us, but a smile just crept across my face thinking about those old days.
Yeah, that was some crazy times. The stories to be left for the unreleased book coming up.
Yeah. Well, we might maybe divulge into some of this information for exclusive Patreon material. I'm just saying, maybe some people should get out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Exclusive Patreon-only comments about the epic days of our early 20s. Wasn't quite Motley Crue-ish and Sunset Strip, but definitely wasn't lame.
We did what we could for the budget that we were on. Let's face it, we didn't have Motley Crue's budget, right? But we were able to get at least 2 bottles and 2 30-packs every night, and then other fun party accessories as well, and that attracted a crowd.
It did. It attracted the cops too.
It sure did. Oh, good old APD. Anyways, getting back to 80s hair metal, Bob. I want to start
off in the 70s.
Yes, I was just gonna say, go right ahead, sir, because I think you're going right where I'm going.
So one of the bands that we kind of glazed right over. There was a couple in the 70s in the last show, and one of the big omissions was Aerosmith. And the reason is, we were talking about heavy metal. All right.
I don't know why that felt like a diss right there, and I think it kind of was, but not really. Go ahead.
Well,
it is
they're not heavy metal, right? Just like Led Zeppelin, all of their allegedly stolen music. Most of it was not, heavy at the time. Some of it was
give me
heavy,
that allegedly shit. Don't give me that allegedly.
So, those two bands, though, they kind of took it a different direction. And then by the late 80s, another band really joined that group and floated to the top really quick, and that's Van Halen.
Absolutely.
So
100%.
once Van Halen, because I guarantee you, if you talk to Van Halen, they're like, "Who's are some of your influencers?" They're going to say fucking Aerosmith and Led Zeppelin, 10 years before.
I'm sure.
Right?
And they might even pop in there and say The Who or some other bands that had outlandish kind of stage presence, right? Like Pete Townsend, right, from The Who, always with the fucking windmill fucking guitar, you know what I mean, that he would do and shit like that. But yeah, go ahead.
So that's what really started separating the two, right? Well, Ozzy and Black Sabbath and, Deep Purple and some of these other places were guiding that metal track. Rock and roll and heavy rock like that separated, like you mentioned earlier, and that's where the glam rock kind of started coming out, was with David fucking Lee Roth.
Let's face it.
That dude is like... That is the quintessential frontman of glam rock that really set the mold for a genre, for a generation of people.
You're absolutely right there. Can I interject a small stiff truth within the stiff truth? This one's for ZV because he agrees with me. But David Lee Roth, best looking man in spandex. That's a stiff truth.
And I was going to get there too. I actually pulled up a list of all the frontmen so that I could vote for my frontman. And really, there is only two.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And for me, it was Bret Michaels and David Lee Roth. Mm-hmm. But Bret Michaels wasn't exactly a spandex man like that. So not like David Lee Roth. So yes, I'm completely in agreement with you about the David Lee Roth being the number one man in spandex.
And I believe out of everybody, he was the only one that could probably do like the full splits, because that motherfucker would kick his legs up way high in the air during his shows. And that was impressive. Now, he
looked like an NFL cheerleader. It was crazy.
He looked like an NFL cheerleader, but his face kind of looked like a government interpreter. Come on! Is this thing on?
I get no respect. That
was Rodney Dangerfield, kids. Just so you know, get it out there.
But in the voice of the gay dude from the Birdcage. So,
keeping it real, baby. Mixing it up.
I'm gonna have to find that guy's name.
I know. I was gonna look it up earlier, but I decided to move on with my life. But you know how it is.
Oh, I'm doing it right now.
While Bob's looking that up, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of piggyback on what you were saying there. You're absolutely right where you were going before I interrupted about my best man in spandex comment about David Lee Roth. Lee Roth really was the quintessential front man, the one that was running around the stage, the one that had himself on cables flying around with the mic stand. Everybody did that afterwards. You probably remember too, back in the 80s, Bon Jovi. He had a video where all of them were flying around the fucking auditorium on those fucking cables and shit like that. But definitely started that. And then, you start creeping into the 80s, you definitely got Van Halen in there. But I think we both would agree too, if you're looking for the hardcore glam cock rock, let's call it epicenter, right? It's definitely LA. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. That's where people would go to LA to make it. You really couldn't do it as far as glam goes. You couldn't do it unless you were in LA.
Yeah.
I think the only band that I can really think of that wasn't like an LA band, maybe Kix. Kix is like a Maryland band or some East Coast band.
Yeah.
But
not really notable. I don't think they're on my background.
They're not. They're not on mine either.
You've got Danger though. Thank God.
I'm glad Warrant's there. We'll get to them later.
Yes, we will. Well, yeah, no, it's and that's it, man. You're kind of teeing you up there, of course, for what we both know, right? LA, you had to go to LA, and it very interesting. I know we both kind of did some research on this, and one of the really interesting things to me is nobody could get signed out there, right? This new wave of music, and nobody was getting signed. Like, record companies were not giving anybody a time of day. So you got guys all going from fucking the Midwest and all over the places, going to LA, kind of just fucking packing up, leaving without a whim, right? And they get there and they're basically bumming it. A lot of these guys, I remember, was it the drum player for Quiet Riot was in like 6 different bands or something crazy like that. You know,
they
like,
pumped out like 3 albums before they got signed.
Yeah, a lot of crazy shit going on. Like Motley Crue, all those guys just kind of living the lifestyle to the best of their ability, kind of like we were doing in our younger 20s, but there really wasn't any traction happening until 1983. 1983, pivotal year for the Cock Rockers, because that's when CBS, Epic Records, did actually sign Quiet Riot, right? And that's when you had Come On, Hear the Noise. And you know what's so great about Come On, Feel the Noise, or right, whatever? They spell it C-U-M, come, which I think is just classic cock rock right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they had to throw it in there. Yeah, Come On, Feel the Noise.
It's all about the chicks, man.
It's all about this. Yeah. But so that album, not called that, but that's the title track, Metal Health, right? That comes on, they jump, they skyrocket. Right after that, though, same year, that's when Motley comes out with Shout at the Devil, right? And then boom, like these bands are gone. And the interesting thing to me is like fucking when you think about, okay, 80s hair bands, fucking huge from like 1983 to about let's call it 87, before Guns N' Roses had to kind of revive it for a minute. But until about 1990, right? That was it. 83 to 1990, fucking just the trajectory, especially in the early 80s, was ridiculous for these guys, especially Motley Crue. They're kind of the leaders of if you think about the mold of cock rock, you got to think Motley Crue. You just got to think it.
Well, yeah, because their success opened up all of the signing in the genre, right? It just opened up an opportunity for everyone.
You okay?
Yeah, sorry. I didn't know if I was going to burp or throw up in my mouth. We made it through.
Oh man, the Stiffies and I would have really appreciated a good little, just
puke all over the keyboard.
Bob's not feeling very well. Boy, that last round of chemo really got you.
I think the weed's wearing off, man.
Love that. No, but what I was saying is kind of what you were just saying is where I was going with this. And they mentioned this in that one documentary that we were watching too, is right after those guys got signed, Quiet Riot and Motley Crue, and the success that kind of, came after that, they literally, quote after quote after quote from different musicians, they started signing everybody. Anybody that was screaming like they were, we said the quote was singing like you were screaming through helium and this and that or whatever. If you had the look, if you had the singer with the high pitched voice, you were signed. Now, the interesting to me when I started thinking about that is like, oh, okay, so they just signed anybody that looked the part, not people that were actually really good musicians. Interesting. Now I kind of understand why the genre did die out so quickly. You know what I mean? So there's that. Anyways, I'll let you go from there.
Yeah, that's kind of what brought me into the Bret Michaels, right? Was later mid '80s was when Poison hit the scene. But they're an example of a band. I think they're from Pennsylvania or something, but they went to L.A. Mm-hmm. Right, and then did the thing. We're gonna have a hard rock song, and then we're gonna have our monster ballad with epic guitar solo for the chicks.
Every rose, baby.
Right, and it's one of them. The most commercially viable monster ballads ever, right? Mm-hmm. So, after Motley Crue, though, that's when you started getting, Rat and White Snake, and basically the people behind us.
You know what's really interesting to me, though. I was a little ignorant until I kind of went back, because I must say this. I have to admit this to the Stiffies and everybody else, that 80s hair metal is something that was near and dear to my heart when I was a child. Hardcore, right? The first 2 cassettes that I bought were Shout at the Devil and Appetite for Destruction. And then I think I got Theater of Pain too, which is Motley Crue's second album. But I was totally about all that shit, but I was one of the guys that went straight to grunge when it came out, right? I was hardcore on the grunge bandwagon, and I kind of never looked back at 80s hair metal unless it was some key bands. I still love some good Quiet Riot, some good Motley Crue. I love Guns N' Roses' first couple albums. I mean, first 3 albums actually are fantastic. You start leaking into the early 90s. But I kind of hung it up, man. I kind of hung it up and moved on with my life musically. And it's strange to me that Skid Row and Sebastian Bach, such a big player when you think about it, like when you have the conversation about 80s hair metal, dude, their big album, their self-titled album didn't come out until 1989. Talk about barely making it in there before fucking grunge hit the scene too. So it was just eye-opening to me. Like a lot of these bands that are supposed to be like these 80 juggernauts, they trickled in at the very end of the decade and barely got their minute of fame in there. And I think that's why a lot of these guys are so bent out of shape about grunge. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents about
Skid but Row. If it wasn't grunge, it'd have been something else.
Yeah.
America was changing, and that lifestyle was changing. You know, the economic changes that Reaganomics brought were settling down. The excess in self were slowing down, meaning that overall, people having the money to simply buy all these albums were slowing down. So everything was dying down at the same time. It wasn't just artistic creativity that was changing. It was the whole economic landscape and the feel of what America was at the time was also changing.
That's
the partying and all the girls and wild parties and everything, that in itself was changing because of AIDS. Right? There was a lot of factors that all went into the death of hair metal, and grunge was just the fucking nail in the coffin. It
really was.
I don't even think it was the biggest player in the death. I think it gets blamed a lot because people don't want to. Well, the musicians at the time that suffered from it don't want to actually realize that it was a 7-8 year stint that was, meant to only be that, and say, well, it was because of these emo fuckers that came along and started writing like meaningful lyrics.
Yeah, we can't have any
music,
of that shit.
Meaningful lyrics to like 4-chord songs.
Weird how that takes off, right? When but no, you're absolutely right, dude. I think it was it the guitar player for Dawkins that said that on the documentary too, that was like literally we pulled the rug out from under ourselves. You know what I mean? Talking about just how it imploded, right? Because when you have, and I love that you set it up too with it, because it completely mirror, right? Music does mirror your culture, right? At that given time and what you're going through. Like, the 60s and the hippie movement was obviously in direct relation to the war in Vietnam and all the protesting there and civil rights and things like that. There was a lot to be upset about, there was a lot to protest about, and there was a lot to be happy about too at the same time. So the kind of music went with it, right? The 70s was kind of like some of that, and then you had a little bit of a break away from that, and it was more about having fun. And then you do get to just the period of excess, right? People were out there buying shit and just spending money and having a great time in the 80s outside of music, right? This was just kind of how culture was at that time. And the 80s hair band was the answer to that musically, right? So everything was about excess, everything about just bigger than life, right? More the merrier, the more girls, the more groupies you had, the more drinks and drugs you could do, the better, right? And with that line of thinking, you can only really go so far before you start to kill yourself, like even figuratively or like literally, right? So I think that's really what happened to the genre in general. And I loved how, and we talked about this before, there's a couple outliers in the 80s, right? There's these bands that you're like, yeah, you could consider them like, I wouldn't say hair metal, but you could put them on a hair metal ticket, right? Like a concert ticket, and be like, hey, I could do that. One, Ozzy Osbourne solo stuff. I was thinking about this a little while. Ozzy Osbourne did a wicked fucking tour with Motley Crue. This is where they dared him, and he ended up sniffing a line of ants. I don't know if you remember that story, but they were just fucking crazy party, but they that's believable, an Ozzy Osbourne Motley Crue tour. And then you could see Ozzy Osbourne with Slayer too. You could see both of those things, right? Or Ozzy Osbourne and Metallica or whatever. The other band that did that, I think one of the only other bands that did that, was Guns N' Roses, right? And that's interesting to me too, because they're still technically, and I will always think when I think 80s hair band, I'm lumping Guns N' Roses into that genre. I really am.
He did wear spandex.
Yeah, he wore some. He's another good one. He liked the tight leather pants though a little bit more, but he liked he likes the spandex shorts. Which
did the spandex shorts, right?
Yeah, he kind of changed.
You gotta rock that bulge, dude.
You gotta rock the bulge, man. And if you don't have it, throw a sock in there, you'll be fine, bro.
You won't be the only one.
But that's the other thing that's really cool about just Ozzy. I will say Ozzy solo. I have to say Ozzy solo career, you know, and then in Guns N' Roses, is they could literally be on a ticket at a concert for a really hardcore speed metal band or Cinderella and Warrant and in Guns N' Roses, you know, headlining it up.
Ozzy's unique. Throughout the decades, that's crazy, but for the last 50 years,
he's done more drugs than everybody.
that
one thing.
He's always had the ability to be mainstream. No matter what the genre was that was mainstream, Ozzy was always accepted.
He was always accepted. And the other thing, too, is he's always cutting edge. He wasn't mainstream after the fact, right? He would be carving out the new mainstream. Because let's face it, Blizzard of Oz came out in 1980. We were talking about this before the show. That's pre Guns N' Roses, pre Motley Crue, almost pre like Van Halen. Even
1980.
Yeah, 1980 is when it came out.
1980.
But that by itself kind of like gave way to like a whole nother style of music. And it kind of was, again, it was accepted by the heavy metal community, like the thrash metal community. And it was accepted by the hair metal community. It was very interesting.
Dude,
yeah.
Just one of those things. I never bothered to look this up until research for this show. But what an epic time to be alive. Right. The year I was born, Ozzy comes out with Blizzard of Oz. 1981, Ozzy comes out with Diary of a Madman. 1983, Ozzy comes out with Bark at the Moon. 3 out of the 4 years, like some of the best metal albums ever released.
Oh, and let's face it, too, some of the best fucking metal guitar work in history are on those albums. Randy Rhoads, and this is a stiff truth, again, within another stiff truth. Randy Rhoads is the most pivotal 80s metal guitar player, even though he was only in there for a few years.
Yeah, what, he died in like 84, 85?
Something like that. Yeah, it was right before, I believe, Ultimate Sin is the first album that he's not on. So he did the first 3, I think, with Ozzy, and then that was it. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I did have that earlier, but yeah. So I mean, it's no wonder that Quiet Riot and Motley Crue didn't take off until after '83, because up until that time, Ozzy and Van Halen were just owning the airwaves.
It's very true. It's very true. And we're not going to talk about them too much on this one because I think it's going to be for the next episode where we get into a little bit more of this. But big players right now, too, which still, I guess they could teeter on being this kind of middle ground, too, is Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, right? This is where they're really pumping out the fucking hits, too. Mm-hmm. And again, you could see an Iron Maiden Motley Crue show. I could see that happening. I could see an Iron Maiden Slayer show. In fact, I've seen Iron Maiden and Slayer together at Ozfest a while back. So, and Judas Priest, too. But I wouldn't kind of put them in the same category as Ozzy or Guns N' Roses, but those kind of two, let's just call them what they are. They're kind of the John Kerrys of the 80s, right? They can flip-flop to either side.
During that same time period, by the way, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest came out with an album almost every single year.
Yeah. And let's face it, too. Whoever did the fucking artwork for fucking Iron Maiden's albums and like yeah, dude, I mean, those are literally, I remember being, and I'm sure you do, this is one of the things, record shops and CD shops, kids, were places where you could go and peruse and look at music and not necessarily buy them, but it used to be a pretty chill hangout spot for us 80s and 90s kids too, right? I remember doing that 80s. And that was like one of the most fun things for me to do was actually to look at the Slayer album covers because they were always pretty devious, right? Yeah. And then look at the Iron Maiden covers and just be like, whoa, Eddie looks so cool on Killers, man. Whoa, Peace of Mind is so fucking badass. And then I'd walk out of the store very pleased with myself.
Yeah, and it's the very Iron Maiden's album covers are almost single-handedly drove, Christian moms to try to ban metal.
Yeah, and what's so weird is if you listen to their music, besides like what they have like a couple of songs that like literally reference the devil and stuff, I'm not really getting a much like heavy evil feel from them. You know what I mean? They're just rocking out and they're doing it fast and they're screaming, they're having a good time. But yeah, I don't think the album covers were very exciting for a lot of.
If they only knew that Dimmy Borgir was coming, they wouldn't have cared about Iron Maiden.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, you got and wait. Yeah, Mom, wait till Cannibal Corpse comes out with their first album. Right. Look at that cover. look at some of that. Butchered at Birth and Gallery of Suicide. Great album covers, but not exactly good for Christian moms either. You're absolutely right. So I don't know. What would you say, Bob? I mean, if you had to pick, I'm just curious here because we could sit here all day and go through everybody on our backgrounds. Yeah, they got a couple of hits here and there, whatever. Who would you say is your guy for an 80s cock rock frontman? Who would be your glam rock guy?
Oh, I
if you had to
thought
pick
we
one?
already did that. My guy, I mean, there's two of them. David Lee Roth, right? And then Brett Michaels. And
Okay.
Brett Michaels,
No, this was the spandex conversation earlier, so this is a little different.
it is a little bit different. But I think David Lee Roth still is just like that's the guy that everyone tried to be.
I
They
want
just
to ask
did.
you something. Have you ever heard? It's really, really funny. I can't remember exactly what song it is, but it's an old Van Halen song from the same album. I think it's 1984, the album. So it's got Jump and like all that good stuff. But they pull out all the music and it's just David Lee Roth like doing all this weird shit. Yeah, oh, like going crazy.
Nice.
Dude. I wish I could play it right now, but it's like it's
YouTube will
just,
get us. We can't do it.
yeah. We can't do it. Obviously, we know YouTube is like they're like Nazis on us for anything copyrighted, so we can't do it. But it's great. You should hear it. But yeah, I agree. So Brett Michaels is your second guy. Tell me a little bit more about that choice.
So Brett Michaels was just like he was the guy for for the peak of glam rock. Like that was the ultimate creation for the mid 80s right there. Is you got this long hair chick looking dude, right? They write songs specifically for women.
Oh yeah,
Knowing that when the women all come to their show, the men will come to get the women, right? And so that's how they capitalized on it. They had the perfect formula of their monster ballad. He was one of the most beloved frontmen in a genre ever. When I was growing up, it was all about Poison and Poison and Poison. I always thought they're a little soft, but as far as like all of glam rock was a little soft for me. But I think as far as that genre goes, I mean it's him or Nikki Sixx, not Nikki Sixx, Vince Neil.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say too, if I think about the quintessential frontman of 80s glam, I'm gonna go with two people. You just mentioned one. Vince Neil's definitely in there. I just think Motley Crue is too much of a dominant force to be ignored.
Yeah.
And their music to me is a little bit better. And that's all thanks to Mick Mars. I'm gonna drop a little knowledge on you right there, but Mick Mars, the guitar player who like nobody ever talks about, he writes all the fucking music. He is the founder of the band, and he's also, I think, 10 years the senior of all the other guys. He's pretty old now.
Mick Mars and the drummer
Tommy Lee.
Tommy. Thank you. Mick Mars and Tommy Lee, like it's their band, right? They started it and then they hired Vince Neil.
I'm pretty sure it's went somewhere. All I know is this: is Mick Mars was the originator of everything, and Nikki Sixx, Vince, and Tommy all had that that 2-bedroom apartment or whatever on
Their own J10. That's
yeah, they had their own J10. Guys, you have no idea what that is, but that's me and Bob's first apartment together. At the turn of the millennium.
Yeah.
if we get back there. That's definitely one for me, Vince. One is he's not really a good singer at all, but his voice and the way he sings is perfect for glam rock. You know what I mean? Like I was noticing that when I was doing a recap, like what was it earlier this week? I literally put on the beginning of Shout at the Devil and just listened to the whole fucking thing. I listened to the whole thing of Theater of Pain. I listened to all of Girls. I was like, I'm getting back into Motley Crue. And that's one thing I noticed. I was like, Vince, you know what? If you take all the music out of here, you sound like shit. But for some reason, and it was very unique to him, it sounded perfect with his style of music.
Well, they were a live show band.
Oh, and see, I think we have to really highlight that 80s glam was a live show thing. Like going to see live shows is probably the only reason they did gain so much popularity. It was all about their stage shows.
Pyrotechnics, drinking whiskey on stage and throwing the bottle in the crowd and just like absolute mayhem for their shows. It didn't have to sound good. The music did. Like it needed to rock.
And it needed to be loud.
It
right?
needed to be loud. They needed to be a party.
Yeah.
Right? Everything had pyrotechnics. Everything was crazy.
It's really weird. It sounds like I would be a great one-man 80s glam rock band, you know?
Just up there by yourself.
Super loud, super obnoxious. Yeah, absolutely. But the other guy for me, Gotta say it, man. Gotta say it. Axl Rose.
Ah,
Axl Rose, my friend. And not only, and I'm going to jump back into this here too, like the music got so generic. I think we kind of touched on this a little bit here in the show, but this was all about excess. They kind of lost focus on the music. Even a lot of the bands admitted this, right? They were getting so much into partying and groupies that they were just writing songs to get more of that,
to
right?
fulfill their obligations to their producers, to their label.
Yeah, pretty much that. And they knew if they came out with another whatever, they could do another tour and get a lot more. It was just all about excess and material shit and nothing about the music after a while. And it started to go downhill at about 86, 87, actually. And that's when Guns N' Roses hit the scene with Appetite for Destruction in 1987. And oh my God, the revamp of the 80s was back. And it kind of put it, can we just say right out of the gate that Guns N' Roses just were oozing machismo and masculinity versus the other guys, and that maybe is what kind of helped them out a little bit too. And let's face it, they're actually really good musicians too. I don't know.
Yeah, there were some premier musicians in a time where, like White Lion, Bon Jovi were out there. You know what I mean? Like lesser lesser bands with less musical prowess are out there, right? And then this professional musicians like come out with Guns N' Roses, and they're just like really talented musicians. They're shit people, and they couldn't hold their band together for shit. But as far as like getting on stage, I mean, I saw an interview with Axl to where he said that honestly, I have two people. I have the professional in me that does whatever it takes to produce the product, and then I have the other person in me that fucking goes ape shit, and then the professional one's the guy that tries to hold that together. And I just have this dichotomy happening all the time. Mm-hmm. And then I don't think he's alone on that, but I think that some of the other bands at the time didn't have as much of that professional side, where it was just, let's just lay down some basic songs. We'll have our guitar player that rocks throwing a solo, and we'll fucking go bang some chicks.
Sounds like a good time. Sign me up.
But you're right. In a time where music was getting really repetitive and soft, Guns N' Roses came, with a big veiny fist to throw in the air and really munchies-moed it up.
Did you really want to say big veiny fist? Come on, Bob.
Fist.
This is you can say.
It's a fist.
Yeah, it's a fist, dude. Calm down. Oh, no, you're absolutely right. And that's the other thing about I got just touching on a little bit more about I think the dynamics of Guns N' Roses too is, let's face it, out of everybody that we just talked about, Sebastian Bach, by the way, too, another really good frontman, but short-lived for Skid Row. I hate to say this, but I think that Axl Rose vocally was more talented than all these other guys put together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he had some chops a little bit. He was had a little bit of classical training on his vocals.
And let's just
did like choir in school and things.
And let's just call it what it is too. He's kind of got like the male version of Janis Joplin in him too, which is great. Everybody loves to hear how he can have like 7 different fucking voices on the album, right? The other thing I thought was really cool about Guns N' Roses, and I didn't actually pick this out until I was re-listening to a lot of shit this week, is that was the first album, Appetite for Destruction, which was probably another reason that kind of like put him on the map again. He says fuck like multiple times in almost every single song on that album, minus Paradise City, which he knew had to be their ballad, right? Well, it's kind of a ballad, right? But I thought that was pretty interesting too. There's so many times I was like, oh, damn, he just dropped another F-bomb, which now is common practice, right? But back then, you had Motley Crue, I think, on Wild Side, the very first track off of Girls, Girls, Girls. It's about like almost at the end of the song where they're just saying Wild Side, and then Vince Neil says, kicking ass on the Wild Side, and that was very racy. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, wow, he just dropped ass. But they took it to a new level with vulgarity too, which I think is another thing.
And they also embraced the explicit lyrics label that had just dropped.
Yeah. Oh, they loved it. That you want that shit on there because the kids want the albums more. And
the irony that actually helped sales, right?
Yeah, I know, right? It's supposed to deter people from buying it, but really, when you saw parental advisory, like, I need to get that fucking shit. I don't even know
Like
what
you
it
wouldn't
is.
even buy it unless it had that on there. Like,
It
I'm not
reminds me of
looking for
a.
Christian rock over here. Where's my parental advisory?
I'm not looking for Creed or anything like that. No, it's funny that you mentioned that too. I remember that one of the other, and this is definitely for another show, but one of the other cassettes, that was one of my first cassettes I had to have my dad buy for me, and that was NWA and the Posse. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I had a
Straight outta
two-lap
Compton.
Crue cassette.
Yeah.
Very hardcore.
And Stiffies, don't worry, we definitely will be, maybe not, in a row or anything. We might want to branch out to some other subjects there, but we'll definitely be touching on hip hop because as equally as a fun conversation, I think, and that will kind of take us to that evolution. So, going back though, let's talk about. Do you want to talk about or highlight anything else about any other bands or specific trends of the '80s, or should we go right to the death?
Well, I just want to mention that in the mid '80s, was it '83? Let's see, yeah, '83.
Yeah, that's kind of the mid '80s. I would say '83 to about '86.
So in '83, like bands formed, right? Morbid Angel, Megadeth, Mayhem, Testament,
I think Metallica's 82, 83, right?
82 or 81,
Yeah, when they came out with Kill 'Em All.
And also Metallica and Pantera in '81 had just been formed too. So there was a.
Interesting how it took Pantera 9 years to get it going, but whatever. Probably one of the best metal bands of all time, but whatever.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. But there was that splitting that was beginning to happen in the mid '80s there, where things were going its different ways. Where real metal, as we know it today, was starting to happen, and this glam hair metal phase was
Just
doing
a dirty
its thing.
face. It's it's kind of like chicks in college when they used to experiment with girls and everything. It was just a phase,
I'm not gay. It was just a party. Everyone was doing it.
I only sucked one dick, and I was half asleep when I did it.
Everyone was listening to hair metal. It wasn't just me.
We literally just equated listening to '80s hair metal as being homosexual. I think the Stevie's are going to appreciate that.
No. As experimenting with homosexuality. Come on.
There's a big difference. If it's just a phase, it's just a phase, right?
So yes, and the funny thing is that as hair bands are dying in the early '90s and late '80s,
That really sounds so sad when you say it like that. As hair bands were dying,
it is as the genre is dying. And the weird thing is, you mentioned Guns N' Roses and their ability to metamorph around the genre. They were still hanging in strong, and in fact, when they released Use Your Illusion 1,
oh, what a great album!
They had a lot of metal in there. What's the You Could Be Mine, right? The track on Terminator, right? That was a sick song.
Oh, I love it. Oh, and honestly too, November Rain, fucking shit.
Man,
What-
that
probably
fucking song.
and probably one of the best music videos ever fucking produced. Like when Slash is in front of the church with his fucking hair blowing everywhere with the guitar solo with his Les Paul. Wow.
Do you remember when? Oh, by the way, my Les Paul is exactly that fucking color, just because of that video.
Well, I used to have a Slash signature Les Paul too,
Right.
so I mean, we're all about that.
Legit. But when that album came out, do you remember Z-Rock? Back in the day, you got your Metal Militia dog tags and all that.
Sure, yeah.
They had their countdown every week about the the top 100 bands or 100 songs or whatever. I want to say that November Rain spent like a year and a half or something as the top song. Ridiculous.
Well, let's face it, man. November Rain is one of those songs that is just transgender.
Transgender, huh? Nice.
Trans-
So was that Slash playing guitar? Or?
No, it transcends through genres, is what I'm going to say. Is because
Nailed it.
yeah. I'm like transgender, sure, Scott. Now back to talking about interpreters again. No. we're gonna get railed, and not the kind of railing you like, Bob.
Our wives are gonna be so mad at us.
That's okay. This is the stiff truth. But no, back to what. God. No, but November Rain. Let's face it, man. I know people that hail that song and hail that video as like one of the best songs of all time, and they may like country music a lot. You know, they may be into big band music and jazz. They may be this and that. It's just one of those songs that just dominates throughout all genres. You know,
it's an epic work of art.
Yeah, it's a real work of art, and they were going really strong until I want to say 92, 93, and then they kind of killed themselves. You know, like Axl.
Oh, it was the epic fail in the Metallica tour.
Yeah, that was
when they just would not when they refused to be a headliner.
Sure, and that's when there was that huge riot in Toronto, if you remember, where they like burned down like fucking like half the city or whatever, going crazy about that shit. Yeah, it's a sad story about them because they still had a lot. I think they still had a lot in their tank if they could get out of their own way. You know, and this maybe is we're getting a little bit off, I guess, subject here. Maybe we should have an entire conversation offline about Guns N' Roses.
Well, we'll talk about it next week when we start talking about thrash metal.
Absolutely,
I think we'll be able to dig in a little bit more.
But closing the loop on this, though, and I think we both know this too. There was a lot of things that made this genre very short-lived, right? It was burned really hot for a good 5-6 years, and then just started to trail off. What? I love what you did there. All right, guys, that's only classic if you're watching the YouTube video. By the way, get on there and like and subscribe and watch some fucking videos because we're doing them. But when I was talking about that, he literally just pointed to the band Warrant on his banner right there, which is absolutely the band that killed this. Don't get me wrong. The first album from Warrant in 1989, probably one of the best album covers. Do you remember? It's like the big fat guy with the cigar, and he's lighting the cigar with like $100 bills or whatever. It's yeah. It's a very cool album cover. But after that, they came out with Cherry Pie. Now, commercially successful, very much so. There's a very hot chick in the video too, and I think that's kind of helped it a lot. Probably the epitome of what was going wrong in the genre, though, right? I think we had talked about this before. The lead singer wrote the song in about a 15-minute car ride to the airport. So, I mean, obviously a very, very deep song with lyrically there. And this was the very last video, I believe, in 1990, right? The last video that was a very big cock rock song, but it's so generic. It was so horrible. And I think immediately after this video is when Smells Like Teen Spirit dropped on MTV. And as we already talked about, not the end-all, be-all of 80s hair metal, but definitely the nail in the coffin. I think those two things right there, Cherry Pie coming out and just basically saying, hey, look, here's the most fucking manufactured, lackluster, no emotion, piece of shit song that we can think of. And then Kurt Cobain kind of just comes right on in on cue.
I think it is funny, though, that Cherry Pie probably made them millions of dollars.
Oh, it's probably one of the most monetarily successful songs, too. You know, monetarily successful. But still, if you watch it now and then think about what we're talking about here and how music dramatically changed in the early 90s with bands like, face it, Temple of the Dog, you know, you got Pearl Jam, you got Nirvana, you got Alice in Chains, all coming out of Seattle right then, right? That
Soundgarden.
Well, yeah, and I said Temple of the Dog, which includes
sort of Soundgarden. It's Chris Cornell.
It's Chris Cornell and McCleary, right, from Pearl Jam. They're together, but yeah, like, so all those bands started coming up, and honestly, just making way better music and way better lyrically and everything. So, kids,
like that. Back in the day, Seattle was known for more than epidemics released upon America.
And coffee.
It was known for music at one point, not wasps and COVID.
Yeah, seriously, you can thank, and if it wasn't going to be Seattle, it would have been somebody else, because this basically was up for the taking. You know what I mean? Metal music, and let's just face it, it turned more back into like a grungy hard rock / punk vibe, right? With these kind of bands. But yeah, if it wasn't Seattle, it was going to be somebody else that had a better idea than just fucking excess and chicks and whatever, because that's what Cherry Pie really was, dude. Cherry Pie was that song.
Yeah, and just like the core metal fans around the first couple years of the 90s were shifting away towards hardcore, macho, fucking fighting, moshing, right? not just like drinking and STDs.
Yeah, that gets a little old after a while. I can speak to that 100%.
After like your fifth swab, you want to move on. It's
Well, you know what? Maybe I never would have learned my lesson if I would have had what the kids have today. If I would have just got my cheek swabbed, I'd probably be in and out there all the time. But I actually had to get the metal Q-tip.
you just have a standing appointment like on your calendar every Saturday. You're at the clinic, regardless of anything,
Scott, what are
just
you
in
doing
case.
here? Just here for my checkup, man. Have you done anything this week? Nope. But I feel it's very important to get tested.
Yeah, no doubt. That makes sense. So yeah, that's it. And on next week's show, we'll really dig more into the thrash and the speed metal, death metal coming to the scene.
This is going to be exciting too.
It
because
is. They're all good. This is like the most fun research ever to do for the show. So
I think about it. What have we been doing like the past few weeks? Is we literally been like, and like even my wife too. Like, what do you? I'm researching for the show. You're literally drinking and listening to fucking Poison and Motley Crue. Yeah, I'm fucking researching for the show.
yeah, but I'm drinking a Cape Cod and I'm listening to hair metal.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's great. It's great though because now we're really going to get in. And like I said, this was maybe a little bit of a stretch for us, just because it was a reach to remember all this stuff. So we actually did have to do a lot of refresh. I'm going to have to do the same thing on some of the older thrash, but again, we're getting back into my wheelhouse. You know, this is kind of
going to really bum me out having to listen to like Master of Puppets and drink whiskey. I'm really sad to have to do that.
Well, and I'm really sad to have to like listen to like a lot of old Slayer, just like listen to Angel of Death, and I'm gonna get into bands like Deicide and Death and SOD and Anthrax and Exodus and fucking.
Our wives are really gonna love us this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, man. I mean, work is hard. Work is hard, Bob.
You better use your AirPads there.
Oh my goodness, Bobby. Well, hey, let's go ahead and close this bad boy out here. The 80s were fun, the era and decade of decadence and excess. And like you said, probably one of the most beautiful times to be alive, right? Let's face it. I'm sure the party was nice while it lasted. But we're gonna dive into thrash and metal and death. Should we say like thrash and death type metal, next week?
Yeah, well, pretty much the rest of it, right?
Yeah, the rest of it, right? And we'll definitely be doing a little bit more talking about these outliers too. I want to say more about Ozzy Osbourne, more about Judas Priest, more about Iron Maiden as well. But beyond that, my friend, I mean, what else do you got to tell the Stiffies? Anything you want to tell the Stiffies?
I got to tell you to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
This is serious. Fucking subscribe. If you don't subscribe, I'm going to come to your house and fucking murder your family. How's that for advertising?
He's not going to do that.
I really don't know where you live.
But other than that, let's spread the channel if you like it. Give us the good reviews. Mention us to a friend. I'm really trying to promote the show and get it out there. We really enjoy doing it, and we appreciate your time. We know that...
Bob, I lost audio.
What?
I lost audio.
For me? Really?
Now it's back. Sorry. It says my internet is unstable right now for a second. But you're back. Sorry about that.
Okay. Well, benefits of our show, right? Being remote. But again, I really appreciate everyone's time. An hour and a half it's a long time to give. So those that do want to spend that time with us every week, we do appreciate it, and it's all for you. We put in really a lot of work to try to give you guys a good product to listen to. So thank you for spending time and listening to us.
Absolutely, Bob. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring us home here a little bit here. Now that it's been a little while, I can say Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there, especially the ones near and dear to my heart, and all the lovely mommies out there. And guys, we're going to be back next week. We're going to be rocking and rolling still for a few more episodes. So join us. We're going to have another amazing cocktail. I know me and Bob probably enjoy those a lot more than you guys, but that's why we do the show. So thanks again for listening, guys, and have an awesome rest of your weekend and awesome week. And we'll be back to annoy the fuck out of you next week.
See ya.